7 consecutive homes, one street, every single one with a price reduction sign staked into the lawn. This is NW 24th Avenue in Cape Coral, Florida, and what's happening here right now should make every homeowner in the state uncomfortable. One house on this block tells the whole story. Listed in March 2024 at $489,000. The sellers, a couple who relocated from New Jersey in 2021, put 10% down at the peak and believed they'd bought into something permanent. Watched that number fall and fall and fall. 14 months later, the listing sits at $287,000. That's a 41% cut. 312 days on market, still no offer. Think about what that means in human terms. They're not just losing equity, they're underwater on a mortgage they can't escape. But here's the question that should stop you cold. Is this one unlucky street, or is this the shape of something much larger? Because 7 homes with an average $67,000 reduction on a single block isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern. And if prices are falling this fast and this far, why isn't anyone buying? That answer is more unnerving than the numbers themselves. Before we go town by town, let's be precise about what 2008 levels actually means, because that phrase is doing a lot of work and it deserves honesty. In 2008, Florida's median home price fell roughly 50% from peak to trough. That collapse unfolded over 5 years and was driven by something specific: mass mortgage defaults, fraudulent lending, and forced selling at industrial scale. Banks were dumping properties. Entire subdivisions went dark. That is not what's happening today. In most Florida metros, corrections run 10 to 25% from 2022 peaks. Painful, but structurally different. The engine this time isn't bad loans, it's carrying costs. The average Florida homeowners insurance bill has risen 102% since 2020, according to NAIC data. 102%. Ask Linda Marsh in Port Charlotte, who watched her annual premium climb from $2,100 to $4,800 in 3 years, while her fixed income stayed flat. She can't sell fast enough. That is the quiet engine of this entire correction. Not defaults, but math, premiums, and assessments and taxes climbing faster than incomes until the monthly number stops working. Where the 2008 levels framing is genuinely accurate: specific submarkets, Cape Coral condos, Northport single family, parts of Punta Gorda. In those pockets, median list prices have returned to 2008 nominal dollar figures. Not a collapse everywhere, a collapse somewhere. And you tell the difference by reading the same 2 dashboards the analysts read. Zillow's home value index measures where values actually sit. Redfin tracks how long homes take to sell and how far below asking they close. Together, market by market, they resolve the headline noise into something you can act on. So which markets are actually in freefall? Start with the one that surprised analysts the most. Cape Coral didn't surprise analysts because it fell. It surprised them because of how fast and how completely the math stopped working. The median list price here hit $499,000 in mid-2022. Today it sits at $389,000, a 22% nominal decline. Average days on market, 127. In 2022, that number was 31. Active listings have climbed past 4,200, a 340% increase from the lows just 3 years ago. The data backs the slide. Zillow's home value index now puts the typical Cape Coral home around $398,000, down roughly 5%, with listings taking about 38 days to reach pending. Redfin has the median sale price near $351,000, also down about 5%, with homes sitting around 69 days and the typical seller accepting roughly 4% below asking. Inventory has swelled towards 6 months of supply, textbook buyer's market territory. But the number that actually broke Cape Coral is not the list price. It is $6,800. That is the average annual property insurance bill in Lee County for a standard 2,000 square foot home. In 2019, that same policy cost $2,100. Run the full carrying costs on a median Cape Coral home today, mortgage, insurance, taxes, HOA, and you are spending roughly $900 more per month than you would pay renting a comparable unit nearby. The investor logic that drove this market evaporated completely. Now picture a 96-unit waterfront complex on SE 47th Terrace. 22 of those 96 units are listed at once, each price cut dragging the next seller down with it. Nobody wins that auction. That is not a buyer's market. That is a building in distress. And Cape Coral is the most visible case. The metro accelerating fastest right now is somewhere most people associate with quiet retirement, not crisis. Northport, Sarasota County. Quiet streets, new construction, the kind of place where retired couples from Ohio imagined their final chapter. In 2021, the National Association of Realtors named Northport the fastest appreciating large city in America. 46% price growth in a single year. People lined up to buy into that momentum. Now the momentum has reversed, and the velocity of the reversal is what should stop you. Median sale price peaked at $450,000 in the second quarter of 2022. By the first quarter of 2025, that number had fallen to $355,000, a 21% decline. But here's what the annual figure obscures. $38,000 of that drop happened in the last 90 days alone. Days on market now average 141, the highest in the Metro's recorded history. Meet Dennis and Carol Hartman. They retired from Columbus, Ohio, bought in Northport in 2022 for $430,000. Their Zillow estimate this morning, $341,000. To sell, they'd need to bring roughly $60,000 cash to closing, money that was supposed to last them through retirement. They're not selling, they can't, and they're not alone. 78% of 2021 and 2022 buyers here used adjustable rate or investor-grade financing. Insurance in Sarasota County now averages $7,200 annually, and Northport has no major employment anchor. It was built entirely on migration demand. Zillow's index tells the same story in cooler numbers. The typical Northport home has fallen to around $318,000, down more than 9% in a single year. And Zillow's forecast has it drifting slightly lower still, while the nation edges UP. Redfin shows the median sale near $345,000, with homes averaging close to 77 days on market, and Sarasota County's roughly 3,800 active listings now compete for a buyer pool closing 3 to 4% below asking. That demand has reversed. The buyers left, the sellers stayed. But when sellers can't exit, especially retirees on fixed incomes, and the buildings around them start issuing bills nobody budgeted for, the situation stops being a correction and starts being something with no clean exit at all. In Punta Gorda, that bill has a specific name, the Special Assessment Notice. Florida Senate Bill 4D passed in 2022, the direct legislative response to the Surfside collapse. Any condo building 3 stories or taller, 30 years or older, now requires mandatory structural inspections and fully funded reserves. The law is reasonable. The math it created is brutal. In older Gulf Coast buildings, those reserve requirements are generating special assessments averaging between $40,000 and $85,000 per unit, often due in lump sums within tight payment windows. Right now, 14 condo buildings in Punta Gorda are listed with disclosed special assessments exceeding $25,000. One complex on Marion Avenue has units priced at $189,000. Sounds like a deal. Until you read the disclosure, a $67,000 assessment attached to every unit. Effective cost to the buyer, $256,000, for a unit that appraised at $310,000 in 2022 and is now worth less than that on its best day. Here's the trap. Lenders won't touch buildings with unresolved assessments. Financed buyers, roughly 60 to 70% of all buyers, are excluded by definition. Cash only, and cash buyers know exactly what leverage they hold. Average days on market for assessment-burdened units in this market, 190 days and climbing. Zoom out and the pressure shows everywhere. Zillow puts the typical Punta Gorda home around $414,000, down a few percent on the year, while Redfin shows condos specifically, the units carrying these assessment risks at a median listing near $309,000 and taking roughly 140 days to move, with price per square foot down about 9%. Charlotte County recorded one of the largest inventory surges in the entire country, running well over 100% above its historical norm. When supply doubles and assessments land in the same season, sellers don't set the price. Buyers do. If you own a Florida condo right now or you're considering buying one, what does that assessment disclosure look like in your building? Drop your situation in the comments. The assessment crisis has a law to blame, a legislative origin story. But the next pressure point building across Florida's markets has no villain, no bill number, no single cause. It's pure arithmetic, and it's quietly doing more damage than anything we've covered so far. Tampa's median sale price sits at $410,000, down just 8% from peak. On paper, that looks like stability. Compared to Cape Coral, Northport, Punta Gorda, it looks almost safe. It isn't. Segment the data by price tier and the picture fractures. Hillsborough County. Single-family homes under $350,000 are moving in 45 days, normal velocity, but homes priced above $500,000 are sitting 160 days with average price cuts of $42,000. The middle of the market is hollowing out, not collapsing from the top, emptying from within. The broader read confirms the squeeze. Across the Tampa-St. Petersburg-Clearwater metro, Zillow's typical value has slipped to around $355,000, down roughly 6% on the year, and Redfin now measures about 5.4 months of supply against a national average closer to 3.8, which is why Zillow tags the metro a buyer's market with a heat index of just 41 out of 100. In the higher tiers, it's starker. Pockets like Southeast Tampa show prices off double digits with homes lingering past 120 days. St. Petersburg tells the sharper story. 68% of all residential parcels in Pinellas County carry some FEMA flood designation, the highest concentration in Florida. For waterfront and near-water homes in AE or VE flood zones, average flood insurance now runs $4,200 per year, on top of standard homeowner premiums. Total annual insurance burden, $11,000 or more. That number alone disqualifies thousands of potential buyers before they ever schedule a showing. Even so, the core of the city still moves. Zillow pegs the typical St. Petersburg home near $375,000, essentially flat on the year and going to pending in under 2 weeks. Dry, code-compliant homes still sell. The flood-exposed and the overpriced sit. But here's what cuts deepest. Institutional investors, the iBuyers, and single-family rental funds with the largest research teams and the most sophisticated exit models net sold 2,100 Tampa area properties in 2024. They added supply without replacing it with purchases. When the people with the most data quietly leave, that departure is itself a data point worth sitting with. It shows up in the dashboards too. The metros where institutions thinned out are the same ones where Redfin's days on market lines bent upward. If you own property in a Florida flood zone right now, what is your insurance actually costing you annually? Drop that number in the comments. The gap between what owners pay and what buyers expect is one of the widest in this market. Institutions have analysts and exit strategies. Individual sellers in Orlando are learning in real time that the rules changed while they weren't watching. The spreadsheet made perfect sense in 2022. Buy a 4-bedroom near Disney, listed on Airbnb, collect $5,000 a month, retire the mortgage, maybe buy a second one. Thousands of people ran that math. In Osceola County alone, the Kissimmee corridor stretching toward the theme park gates, investors snapped up homes priced between $400,000 and $550,000 on the promise of that projection. The numbers felt conservative. Tourism never stops in Orlando. Except the numbers were wrong by $2,900 every single month. AirDNA's 2024 data puts average short-term rental revenue for Osceola short-term rental properties at $2,100 per month. Meanwhile, carrying costs on a $480,000 purchase, 20% down, current rates, $8,000 annually in insurance, HOA, run approximately $3,900 monthly. That gap isn't a rounding error, it's a slow financial hemorrhage. Orlando's metro median has fallen to $385,000, down 11% from its 2022 peak. But Osceola County is down 17%, with days on market hitting 138. And Kissimmee listings, using the phrases investment property or Airbnb ready, have surged 280% year over year. The platforms confirm the cooling. Zillow puts the typical Orlando area home around $386,000, down nearly 4% over the past year, and now taking about 42 days to reach pending, with more than 7,000 active listings. In Osceola specifically, Redfin shows the median sale near $385,000, down about 3.5%, with days on market jumping from the high 40s a year ago to the mid-60s now. These aren't distressed families. They're failed business plans, liquidating at whatever the market will bear. If you ran short-term rental math in Florida during the boom years, or you're running it now, what does your actual revenue look like versus the projections? Drop your real numbers in the comments. And if you want to stop tracking this market one county at a time, here's the shortcut. Every town carrying these exact pressures and every town quietly dodging them is mapped in one place. 40 Florida towns, 20 rated to buy and 20 rated to avoid, in a single guide called the Florida Buy and Avoid List for 2026, with the real numbers on prices, insurance, and assessment exposure for each one. It runs on the same logic as this video, already applied to 40 markets, and the link is in the description if you'd rather have the finished list than rebuild it yourself from Zillow and Redfin, one county at a time. But stay right here, because before we're done, I'm going to hand you the exact test that separates a market that's merely correcting from one that's restructuring for good, and shows you which side of that line your own street is on. These investors can absorb the loss and move on. The sellers in the next market never had that cushion. They never had equity to lose. Jacksonville looked different on paper. It still does. Median sale price, $315,000, down 9% from peak. Days on market, 89 lower than the state average. The FHA loan limit for Duval County sits at $498,257, meaning the median home here is comfortably within reach for a first-time buyer using government-backed financing. For someone watching Cape Coral and Northport implode, Jacksonville reads like the exit ramp. Meet Darnell and Priya Okafor, pre-approved for $320,000. Steady jobs, clean credit. Some 5% down saved over 4 years. They found a 1994 three-bedroom in Arlington, $308,000, priced to move. Their lender ran the numbers. Then the insurance quote came back, $6,400 annually, because the home was built before 2000. That single line item pushed their debt-to-income ratio past the lender's threshold. Loan denied. The floor that looked like opportunity has a ceiling built directly into it. Duval County foreclosure filings are up 34% year over year in the first quarter of 2025, the highest since 2013. And the price data shows why the floor isn't catching. Zillow has the typical Jacksonville home around $296,000, down about 2% on the year, while Redfin puts the Duval County median sale near $309,000, with homes now taking close to 56 days to sell. It's stalling, priced out buyers on one side and insurance wall on the other, not because buyers won't come, because the buyers who should be stepping in are being systematically blocked by a cost that never appears in the listing price. If you're navigating insurance math as a first-time buyer right now, what are the quotes actually looking like? Drop your numbers below. Jacksonville's problem is insurance arithmetic. The next city's problem is something older and far harder to solve. So we return to Northwest 24th Avenue, the street where this started. That house, the one listed at $489,000 in March 2024, is now priced at $279,000, 341 days on market. The couple from New Jersey has accepted, quietly, that the down payment is gone, not in foreclosure, not in crisis in any way that makes the evening news, just in a slower, quieter version of loss, the kind that reshapes retirement timelines, delays the grandchildren's visits, and changes where people decide to rebuild their lives. On Zillow, that block's estimates keep drifting down each month. On Redfin, the days on market counter just keeps climbing. The data doesn't shout, it accumulates. That distinction matters. Because the signs on these streets are not all saying the same thing. Run the 3-pressure test across every market we've covered. Insurance surge above 80%, no major employment anchor, investor-heavy purchase composition from 2021 to 2022. Cape Coral meets all 3, Northport meets all 3, the Kissimmee corridor meets all 3. Those markets aren't correcting. They're restructuring at a fundamental level. Tampa meets 1, maybe 2, Jacksonville meets 1, Orlando proper meets 1. Different signs, different meanings. If you're reading these streets and want to keep reading them clearly, join the people following FloridaPulse. Because this granular pressure-by-pressure analysis is what separates a decision from a guess. Which pressure, insurance, employment, or investor saturation do you see most clearly in your own market right now? Drop it in the comments. Which brings us back to the question we opened with, and an answer that reframes it entirely. The question was, never is Florida crashing. Florida is 22 million people, 67 counties, a waterfront condo in Punta Gorda carrying a $67,000 assessment, and a Jacksonville starter home with steady employment nearby are not the same market. They never were. Calling them both Florida real estate is like calling a Category 5 hurricane and a summer thunderstorm the same weather event. The boom framing flattened this complexity. The crash framing is making the identical mistake. What the data actually shows is 3 distinct realities operating simultaneously. A severe, insurance-driven correction in specific submarkets, a functional freeze across the statewide condo market, and a buyer's market quietly emerging wherever employment anchors and newer housing stock create genuine demand floors. You can watch all 3 at once on Zillow and Redfin. The hardest-hit submarkets show double-digit value declines and months of standing inventory. The condo segment shows long days on market and assessment disclosures that freeze financing. Steadier metros show shallow single-digit dips with homes that still clear when priced right. The signs on the street are real, but reading them requires knowing which street you're standing on. So here's the only question worth asking now. If you own in one of the 3 pressure markets, insurance surge, no employment anchor, investor-heavy purchase composition, the debate isn't whether prices recover. It's what staying costs you, in actual dollars, every single month until they do. That math doesn't care about headlines. Run it. Run.